Welcome to Movie Roundup today. I'm going to explain a comedy movie and horror called Spring. Desperate to be famous and recognized influencers, a young American named Kurt. Ingenuity to develop a macabre plan. Make it viral on social networks. At the beginning of the film we see how Kurt and try to stand out in the networks. Uploading videos to your YouTube channel called Football 96, but this is not very popular and only get a few visits. Spend 10 years in which the young man uploads content to the networks, but as he does not succeed he gets frustrated and think about abandoning everything. Is then when you get an idea revolutionary which he calls the lesson, with which he is sure he will be able go viral. To realize your idea, Kurt starts working on a passenger transportation app similar to Uber calls Pry. Then the young man places several cameras inside his car and start broadcasting live the lesson, in which he assures his viewers who holds the key to achieve success before starting your workday. Kurt tells his followers that he is important to offer water to your customers, but he mentions that it is a special water. Before leaving, the boy enters the house to help his mother, and then he gets on to the car to start your day at your first trip. Young man meets Frederick, who is a gentleman somewhat older than he. Must go to an important meeting. The subject account of the 6 cameras that there are inside the car, but Kurt tells him that it is for live on his channel, and he tells him, "Don't worry for a while, sir." Start making various comments racists, but Kurt can't let that comes out on his broadcast, so he decides to start with the lesson, offering some water to Frederick. The subject takes the water and drinks it, and shortly after time you can see how he starts to cough until he was unconscious lying on the back seat. Is here when we found out that Kurt introduced a poison deadly in the bottle, sealing them with a strainer gun so that the passengers do not notice. The boy disposes of the body and goes in search of his next trip. Meanwhile, we can see how the few followers of him comment that it is all a farce and that he only does it for call attention. Then he arrives at the location of his next passenger and she gets in the car. After a while the woman takes one of the bottles and drinks, so she dies too. To which the guy uses the facial recognition to unlock his phone and qualify him well. Third passenger is a boy named Mario, who treats Kurt badly and he speaks rudely while he drives another person named Yes and joins the trip, and Mario gets angry because that will waste your time, despite that he had asked for a shared sprint for being cheaper. Curved by Jesse and Al arrive. She climbs on the seat rear and the 3 continue with the trip. Moments later Mario tries to flirt with her and quickly realizes that it is Jesse Adams, a famous comedian with many followers on the networks. Kurt is surprised and asks her to give him some tips, but at that time Mario interrupts her and starts recording an Insta story without your permission. Angry Jesse records a story too, in which she publicly wrote him down, and Kurt takes the opportunity to advertise your live broadcast. Tired of the situation, the woman gets out of the car and leads to a water. Kurt tries to stop him from doing it, but luckily the woman throws the water on Mario and throws the bottle against the car. The 2 continue with the trip, and Mario, he tells her that he is feeling bad about it. Kurt stops the car and tells him to be. I went downstairs to vomit outside. The young man gets down and short take the opportunity to put the reverse and run over it. Mario flies over the windshield, and when he hits the ground, Kurt drives forward and runs him over. Again at night the young man checks the Jesse posts and turns on the car lights to continue with the lesson upon arrival at a station. Service. The young man refuels and talks with Bobby, the only viewer of him, which is a famous influencer friend of Kurt Mobile. He comments that its content is rubbish and that the murders are fake, and he tells her that he will help you get visitors and makes even more crazy things. Short accepts, and in his next trip picks up a group of young tourists. The boys tell him who want a different experience. So course takes them to a dump and asks them to stick their heads out of the roof window. When they do, he closes the window strongly and leaves them trapped, while some dogs run towards them and they eat them alive. The young man takes care of the other girl, impaling his head with a drill, and later calls Bobby, very excited to tell you what happened, but the young man tells him that he does not have importance since no one saw it, and suggests that he view the profile of people famous as Jesse to learn how to be. Does Kurt look at the posts, but he believes that he is very unfair that the woman have so many views, and he doesn't, despite all he is doing so. He decides to visit his famous friend Bobby, which was also live. When the young man opens the door, Kurt tells him what help get more views, but your friend tells him that he does not want to be part of what he is doing, so the boy pulls out a knife and stabs Bobby, while hundreds of people watch it. Kurt's transmission starts to fill up, and quickly Bobby grabs a revolver and he points at him, but the two struggle and boy manages to take away the gun and shoot him in the head. Kurt takes a shower at Bobby's house and gets very happy because now there are hundreds of people watching him. At the end of the shower, the boy dresses up in Bobby's clothes and he receives a message from his father asking him that he picks him up since he needs to go to a club where the famous joo-hwan will be. That he doesn't know who he is, but his followers. They ask him to go because of what Kurt goes through by his father, and together they go to the club. When you get to court, try to talk to one and get me to mention it in a story, but the woman ignores him, so that the boy decides to go to continue with the lesson. Before leaving, one approaches the car and she tells him to mention it in one story if he takes her to the best truck in tacos and takes short photos, accepts, and after the photo session, the young man offers to buy some food while woman waits in line. Short finds the gun in the car and pulls out some photos and then take one of bottles and drink some water. Woman begins to cough until she is unconscious, and when Kurt gets on the car, two policemen observe the stranger situation and they ask the boy to come down. The officers check it and do the breathalyzer test, and at that moment one wakes up very confused and in a state out of panic, take the gun with which shoot one of the officers in the head, then run away. Kurt gets in the car and tries to escape from the police on the highway while he drives in the opposite direction, and with his phone in hand the young man achieves lose them when he enters an area where who live bums. And how does it feel? Unstoppable begins to crash into the subject's tents until he loses control and overturns his car. After a while, we see Jesse Adams on stage giving his comedy show, and we find out that Kurt is also in the place at this time. Curia has many followers and visits, but already nothing is enough and the lesson must continue as the young man decides kill her, but the woman tells her public the situation he had with Kurt and Mario when she asked for a spread, so that she breaks her cell phone announcing that she will leave social networks and walk away of fame for a while, ending his show. Jesse speech left to Kurt quite thoughtful, so the boy leaves the place shortly after. Time the CEO of Spree announces that all they are cancelled in the Angels by the incidents that occurred in the last hours. Then Cool asks for a go-go, which is the company that competes with Sprint, and a man picks him up at that moment. Yes, and also asks for a go-go to go to his house, and getting in the car is Kurt, who he was taking her at first, the woman. He doesn't realize, but then the young man mentioned something about the water bottles. So the woman looks him in the face and she realizes it's Kurt then, and suspects that something strange is happening, but she tries to follow the conversation until that in a moment everything gets very strange. And Kurt asks him to record a sexual video. The boy explains that in this way the two would have much more followers, but hey, Kurt hangs himself with the cable of the loader. The young man gets loose and hits her, knocking her unconscious, and drives to his mother's house. Upon arrival, he curve yes from the car and quickly returns to upload to surveyor followers about what he should do with she. The public votes that he should kill her. But when he raises his head, the woman, she is not here anymore. Cursail and investigate, and at that time the woman gets in the car and tries run over him. The young man runs to the house and Jesse loses control, crossing one of the walls. The woman, he gets out of the car and Kurt's father appears, saying that he committed a serious error in entering his property like that. Girl tries to explain the situation, and at that moment Kurt's father sees the dead mother on the ground. The man, he thinks she was the one who killed her, but at that moment Kurt appears with a gun in the hand and shoots her father by the back. It is here that we find out that start of the day the first person to that Kurt killed was his own mother, and so he crawls to the car while Kurt finishes off his dad with the gun, and when he manages to get on the woman, she turns on and rams the boy, crushing him against the wall. Thousands of people watched the entire sequence by live broadcast, which asked Jesse to go see Kurt. As he approaches, the subject stands up, but the woman hits him with her phone until it kills it completely. Situation that he had to live made Jesse becomes an icon in the USA, where everyone knows her as the woman who managed to defeat the murder of Spree, and thus she became world famous. And now she is one of the main fighters for the rights of women and against the gap wage. While on the other hand, several forums of the internet pay homage and jokes, using Kurt to do all kinds of memes while wondering about when will the next killer appear. Spree. Remember to leave your like, that helps a lot to the channel. Subscribe and activate the notifications to see more videos like. Thank you for watching, and until next time.